Thank you. David, did you have any other reflections to share, or?
Just to say thank you very much to Andrea. Andrea has always been a great supporter of the Ubuntu Hub, but really this is about it's about encouraging people to join networks. This is one of them. There are several other networks, but the idea of networking and growing as a leader is super important in Africa particularly, because we are so limited by things like geography, finance, that kind of thing, that the idea of being able to network for free using digital platforms is super important. And we would just like to encourage leaders from all over the continent to join and share. One last point, actually, and that is I see there's something about the country that it's located in the chat box, but actually many of our leaders and many of our members on the hub have actually enjoyed meeting and collaborating and learning from people from other countries. And that's one of the beauties of this. We share so much in common between different countries, and we share experiences and we share challenges, that learning from others is super important, and it shouldn't be bound by borders and by nationalities. But that's us. That's the Ubuntu Hub. Thanks for this opportunity, and we're very happy to take some questions.
Thank you both. That was a great enlightening presentation and showing how digital technologies are really expanding the scope for bringing communities together across the continent. And I think there's a lot of participants and school leaders with us today who are very interested in hearing more. So hopefully we'll get some time for some questions at the end. I'm delighted now to introduce our second spotlight from the continent, and that's Seera Carol, a school leader from Uganda. So thanks, Seera. Over to you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to take this opportunity as well to just thank Global School leaders for giving me the opportunity to be part of this summit, organizing it for school leaders just like me, and of course for allowing me to share my experience with the rest of the world. So my name is Seera Carol, and I am a Teach for Uganda alumni and also the head teacher at Mlisada Passion Primary School. That's the picture, that's our school. Now, Mlisada stands for Music, Life Skills and Destitution Alleviation. And it is under an organization also called Mlisada Organization, found in Kampala. And the organization's mission is to protect, heal, empower, and support vulnerable children and youth through music, life skills, and education. So we work with children such as former street kids, children from orphans and children from disadvantaged homes, but mostly those that live in Kampala's slums. The organization rehabilitates them and then gives them to the school, Mlisada Passion Primary School, and then we give them an education. Before I proceed, I would love to pose a few questions for you to just think about. What would you love to be met with in your first month as a head teacher or as a school leader? Would you want to see a primary 7 child throw a dead snake in a primary 1 class while the teacher is teaching? Or would you love to see one of your teachers on duty instruct children to clean and they defiantly refuse, and then have that teacher give one of the pupils a very hot slap? How about seeing one of your students, a 7-year-old, report to school very early in the morning with their snack, only for a group of children to just come and take those snacks away from him? I don't know what you think, but if you think that's too much, I experienced that when I joined the school as a head teacher. in 2023. It was my first experience as a head of a school. I had always been a classroom teacher, and I took up the opportunity with a lot of passion and zeal. But the experiences, these and more, were quite overwhelming. And for most of the times, I did not know how to deal with them. I had been teaching in typical schools, with children coming from, typical families, but not like a whole group of children with, with the same sort of background in one school. And it was challenging for me, just like it was for the teachers that I found there. And so I had thought of quitting. I thought I should quit or, just give up, because the school had experienced about four teachers before me, four head teachers before me, and the teachers were seeing them doing the same things and then having them leave, with the school not changing at all. However, I decided to stay and lead a transformation. I sat with the teachers and we realized that one of the things that was standing in their way was the discipline of the children, because the children were quite uncontrollable, unruly, because of their backgrounds and because of the needs. But it took someone who understood these children's background to support them. And so I introduced different trainings, one on positive discipline. I introduced this to the teachers and supported them on how to implement this. We trained about how, the brain works and how that supports learning. We talked about trauma and how it affects life, and learning. We introduced values, we set expectations, set consequences, had counseling sessions for the children throughout the week, but also trained the teachers on better teaching methods that would support, better learning for the children. And with all that package in place, we saw a transformation in the teachers because the teachers themselves had their own traumas and needed a sort of healing or understanding of what they were going through, because you can't give what you do not have. You need to have experience, you need to have an understanding of what is going on in order to support the children. And so with these trainings, the teachers became better. They supported the children and the children too became better. We used to have so many cases of indiscipline being reported, bullying, theft, all those reduced by the end of that first term. And of course, the changes kept on coming throughout the year. This is my third year, and truly there was great improvement. The teachers' attitudes changed. The quickest mode of punishment was always get a cane, beat the children up. But that perspective, left the teachers. And for me, in my experience, connecting it to the bigger picture, I find that teachers are the foundation of a school. Without teachers, nothing much can be done. Actually, nothing can happen. And therefore, teachers need to be supported. Policies, systems need to be in place to support the teachers to become better or to do a better work. And that calls for policies that support continuous professional development, that prioritize that. But also the school heads as well, because in my own experience, I realized that I had this exposure from my past experience. And even though I did not have the experience of working with children of such backgrounds, with the knowledge I had, I just used that to support the children. So that means that school leaders should also be prioritized in terms of capacity trainings, in terms of empowerment, in order for them to empower the teachers and later on, support the children to thrive. And so for me, I know that in order for children to thrive, we need to understand that transformation takes time. And therefore, there needs to be patience and having realistic targets for the school leaders, and then of course providing them with resources, giving them autonomy, and in that way they will support the teachers to become better, and therefore the teachers will support the learners to thrive. So I think for me, my question for people out there would be, how are you supporting school leaders, to do better or to support the learners and the teachers to thrive? Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. That was a great, frank and honest snapshot of some of the challenges facing school leaders across the continent, but also some brilliant suggestions and strategies of how you're supporting your teachers and school community to ensure all children receive a quality education. So thank you very much. And I'm sure there might be other people who are listening to what you've said that have similar experiences. So please do use the chat box, and we'll get to your questions at the end of the spotlight session. So thank you, Sarah. Next up, we have Simon Graffy from Inspiring Teachers with us. So hi, Simon.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. My name's Simon Graffy, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Inspiring Teachers. So we're an evidence-based nonprofit working in Uganda, Ghana, and Malawi. And I'm going to talk about bringing coaching in school in those settings. Right. So just there you are. So I'm going to use Ghana as a case study. So in Ghana, 8 in 10 children in public schools are not able to read for meaning with comprehension at age 10. Why is that? Well, teaching is hard. Teachers have to plan good lessons, align to the evidence on how reading happens, so align to the science of reading. Teachers have to assess their classes. They have large classes. They have to manage a classroom. So it's a lot to do. And at Inspiring Teachers, we believe that teachers deserve to be given the tools to succeed. Now, structured pedagogy programs are an approach that combines teacher lesson guides, one-to-one student learner materials, either books or student workbooks, and then training and coaching. And these programs have been shown to be highly effective. And they work just because they do just that. They give teachers the tools to succeed. And these programs were largely for foundation phase literacy. Over the last decade, USAID was a major sponsor of these programs across Uganda, Malawi, Ghana, Zambia, and lots of other contexts. And these programs have been cancelled. And a question is, could these programs be streamlined? And if they were streamlined, could they survive? So I'm going to unpack one of the points of failure in these programs, or like the old model, and talk about how school leaders might play a role in the new model. So these, just you can see from the left-hand side of this slide, typically education systems are organized. You have one Ministry of Education responsible for provinces or regions, within which there are districts, and then there might be zones or circuits. And the model for rollouts of large-scale structured pedagogy programs over the last 15 years has largely been for training to happen directly to teachers, and then support to be provided by coaches who are aligned to districts and who roam and need vehicles or need means of transport to get to schools to observe and coach teachers. Now, the people in these roles, in Ghana, they're called CISOs. In Uganda, they're called CCTs. In Malawi, they're called primary education advisors. In South Africa, they're called subject advisors. They have very similar roles, but they have this kind of in-between role. They're like a bridge between the system and the teacher. Now, often these programs have actually neglected to include school leaders. So that creates a situation where school leaders have their teachers go off to attend an early grade reading program training, but don't actually get included in the training. So don't get introduced to the theoretical underpinnings or the pedagogical routines their teachers are meant to implement, and find themselves somewhat in the dark to what teachers should be doing. Now, I'm going to use our program as a bit of a case study to explore whether school leaders could play a bigger role. So this is a program we're running it's now in 139 schools in Ghana. It's called Tools for Foundational Learning Improvement. And this is how it works. So each day, teachers deliver a 1-hour science of reading-based structured lesson. And they get a structured lesson guide that gives them step-by-step guidance on how to deliver that lesson. They also get an app. So at the end of each term, they run a 1-to-1 oral reading fluency and phonics screener skills check that's aligned to the scope and sequence of the program with every child in their classroom. And that takes 2 minutes. And the process involves the child reading from paper and the teacher using the app to basically track when the child makes errors and to time the child's reading and check the extent to which children have these foundational skills that underpin reading fluency. Now, teachers then get data. So after teachers have run these assessments, they get their class list organized by children's reading levels. But the data also flows to field staff and so those district staff and to district managers and to school leaders. So the model looks something like this. It's like a more integrated approach with a digital layer. So teachers, school leaders, field staff will have this application that they use, and program directors, we're calling them in this case, but district level managers who oversee the zone level school support staff have a dashboard. Now, over the last 18 months, we started an 80-school randomized control trial, and in July we got the first round of data from that. So there were 40 treatment and 40 control schools, and 1,300 one-to-one early grade reading assessments were run, and 160 lessons were observed and filmed. And we did an A/B test within that, which I'm going to come to. So I'm not going to focus on the results, but the results showed that children's reading improved a lot. There were 44% less non-readers in the classrooms. But the implementation model was mainly through this old model, or what I'm suggesting is an old model, where roaming field staff who have to be financed have to visit schools. So what we did was inside the 40 treatment school group, we ran an A/B test. And what we wanted to do was see what would happen if you also trained school leaders on the science of reading, on the pedagogical routines alongside their teachers. And so we had one group where we only trained the teachers and another group where we trained the teachers and the school leaders. And we monitored the number of literacy lessons that teachers went on to deliver. And we did that by checking student workbooks or having a team of enumerators do that. And also using the lesson observations, tracking the quality of the lessons. And what we found was that the fidelity of implementation in classrooms, so the teaching fidelity, the quality of lessons, and the number of lessons teachers had delivered was higher when school leaders were also trained alongside their teachers. Those teachers were the teachers who had someone join them who is a school leader were more likely to check understanding. They implemented the lessons more effectively. And so the overall shift in teaching quality was 2 standard deviations. So it's a massive change, but about 25% of that shift can be attributed to the school leader having been trained as well. So the implication is that training school leaders and including school leaders in foundation phase programs can improve the effectiveness of those programs significantly. In our work, we've then went on to expand that to these 140 schools. And the next question is how to do that cost effectively, because often the reason that head teachers get bypassed is because it's just an additional cost, and there's perhaps some opportunity cost of taking them out of school. So that's what we're going to do next. We've produced a video-based course, and we're over this current academic year, we're going to trial providing a video-based blended school leader training and see if we can still get teachers the support they deserve through that model more cost effectively. And maybe if we can better support school leaders, they can lead the charge in ensuring the implementation quality of these large structured pedagogy programs, which can be transformative. They can lead the charge in that work and create a situation where there's not a dependency on big aid funding, roaming armies of coaches visiting schools who need transport. Right, there's a blog and a working paper forthcoming, but that's the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Simon. That was really insightful, and I hope others in the meeting also learned a lot from that. And as you rightly say, we're in an evolving situation at the moment. So innovations such as what you're doing, trying to kind of implement videos or bring about bigger online learning initiatives is really exciting to see. So thank you for sharing with us today. We're up for our fourth and final spotlight for the session. Before we get to the Q&A, and thank you everybody for being so active. We've got some great questions coming in, so please do keep them coming. And we'll try and have at least 10 minutes to hear from our speakers again. So now we've got Chinedum Oluwadamilola of Teach for Nigeria, who will share some of her insights and experiences.
All right. Good afternoon again, everybody. Can you all hear me?
We can.
You can hear me. Great. All right. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. I'm here speaking from Teach for Nigeria, where we're making sure and working towards ensuring that every child has the opportunity to have access to excellent education, which is something that is very important for us. And we're looking at how we can make that happen. So in answering this question, and this is more like a question that we have tried to answer in Teach for Nigeria, where our vision is that one day every Nigerian child would have the opportunity to attain an excellent education. Now, it's a very common thing. We train teachers, teacher training all over the world. Professional development is something that people give a lot of attention to. But then the school leaders and leadership in schools is the second part of, the sides of the ladder that children climb in order to get on to, for their achievement and attainment and learning outcomes. So it's important that school leaders are trained. And so Teach for Nigeria came up with a school leadership development program. Teach for Nigeria has, as a member of the Teach for All network, has young graduates and existing teachers who do a 2-year program in serving and teaching in underserved communities in the country, especially in Ogun State and in Lagos State, where we are presently. But then the school leaders, for sustainability, for continuity, for support, and we all know that leadership is very, very crucial. So the School Leadership Development Program is a 9-month program for school leaders within the underserved communities as well. And so the the vision is to empower these school leaders to create and lead transformative schools, because we believe that it's in these transformative schools that children would have access to excellent education. It's not going to happen outside. It's going to happen in schools where the leadership has created an avenue for transformation, for good quality education. And so these school leaders trained to develop skills in educational leadership and innovation, helping them to come up with projects to enhance learning outcomes and ensure that they are working within, giving themselves support. So we start by having a residential training institute where we get them together over 1 week and have them, go through what we call the theory of problem. What are the issues in our country? What are the educational issues? What are the things that we need to do? And we look at the theory of change from the perspective of Teach for Nigeria. What can we do? And the purpose really is for them to have a paradigm shift. In our part of the world, the government is literally overwhelmed. There's so many problems. We're a third world country. And the idea for most people is to wait for the government to do the things. We wait for the government to run the schools, make provisions, and the funds are not just there. And so we work with the school leaders to get them to think differently, what we call the power of one. I can make a difference within my own circle of influence. I can make a difference within that school where I work. I can change my attitude. I can give it my all and make that little difference, which will have a multiplier effect and, make a huge difference to that one child. And so after the residential training, they go on for about 8 months of online learning. We have a very rich curriculum, teaching and ensuring that they are well-grounded. Yes, teachers and head teachers and school leaders get professional development, but we don't think that, the one-off things make so much of a difference. And then we work with them to identify projects within their schools. Schools have myriads of problems, but the problems are not the same. The challenges are not the same. So they identify a challenge that they can work on, get other people to support them, that would ultimately improve learning outcomes. So we call them the Be the Change projects. And so these Be the Change projects help them to, meet a particular need in the school. It could be the need for more exercise books or desk or, providing toilets or clean drinking water, whatever that need is that would positively affect the learning outcomes in the school. And so they work with mentors as well as coaches. So each of these school leaders are attached to coaches. We work with them, visit them, and ensure that they get that kind of support that they need. And the truth is that we've got loads of success stories. We have schools having, increased in population, 200% increase, 100% increase in the population because the school leaders are beginning to show them kindness and empathy, and they are there, modeling good quality, good behavior, good traits. They are providing services and things that, would ensure that they have better learning outcomes. And even for the education officers are part of this program. Education officers work within the school districts and they go to schools for inspection, and they now see that they are supposed to be working together with the school leaders and not just being there as those who are going to find faults. And so we've seen education officers come together to build tech hubs, to provide reading materials, to do bring in things like instructional materials for schools within their areas of jurisdiction to be able to have those things. We have teachers or head teachers and education officers going ahead to work on renovating laboratories and just doing a lot of things that ordinarily they would not have done. We're not saying that they are taking over the job of the government, but they are doing what they can within their spheres of influence. And that for us is huge. Currently, we have our 5th cohort. There are 92 of them. And over the last 5 years, we have more than 200 school leaders who have gone through this program. And so this is dependent on that empowerment, ensuring that they understand that they are not helpless while we wait for the government, but they're there to support the government and do what they can within that sphere of influence, because these are the people that the children see. These are the people that the teachers see. And when a school leader is, going out there and ensuring that people are, stakeholders or philanthropists are, coming in to help them to do things in the school, helping them to do some renovation. I remember one school leader who had to renovate the school laboratory that had not been in use for more than 10, 15 years, and ensuring that that happens. And so many things are happening. So we are doing as an organization in Teach for Nigeria what we consider the little we can, while we have the teachers do the 2-year program. We have the school leaders do this concerted 9 months program. And then when they are done, they join the SLD alumni. So it's not like they just do it and then they're off. And so the alumni community supports them, keeps supporting them to ensure that, they keep doing what they are doing and providing the kind of service that these children need. So we like the fact that, we're helping them with their mindset, building their confidence, because it's just a matter of them understanding that they can make a difference so that they can create and lead transformative schools, because it's in these schools that children have access to quality and excellent education. But thank you very much. I'll take questions if we have any. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Chinedum. And it's great to hear that there's so many promising initiatives and support mechanisms out there for school leaders on the continent. And it's definitely a common thread throughout all of the Spotlight presentations we've heard over the past hour together. So it's really enlightening and inspirational. We do have time for some questions, not a lot, but we've had some really good ones come through on the chat. So I just ask all of our speakers to turn your cameras on, and I'll see if we've got one for each of you. But I also just wanted to reference, there's been a lot of requests in the chat for the resources or links to what our speakers have been sharing over the past hour. We'll ask everybody to send them to us directly, and then we'll collate them into a nice list that all of the participants and people that registered for today's session can access. So don't worry, you will get access to all the resources so that you can have a look and see what's shared. Okay, so the first question that I've noted down is for David and Andrea. I'm not sure which of you want to take this one, or you might both have different reflections. But it's a question about how you track and measure the impact of the network of the Ubuntu app.
Well, we really are quite an organic and community-led platform. So the tracking that we do is multi-faceted. We track for our own purposes to see sort of how many people are engaging, the sort of quality of the engagement and that sort of thing. But that's really for our own internal metrics. But what we focus on really is impactful outcomes, and we rely on the community to actually give us, to ask us to put things forward that are that are important to them. So a lot of the stuff we do is like webinars, or we provide courses, and we, all that sort of thing. But we curate these things. So we will get, for example, if it became necessary that people, if people were interested in talking about, pedagogy, for example, we would bring pedagogical experts in from our network, from our African network, to come in and talk to the community. So the impact that we then assume that this is having an impact because we're getting the questions and then we're providing the answers, if you like, or providing the experts. But we don't actually track the impact necessarily for the participants, apart from giving people the opportunity to give feedback and to tell us what the impact has been on their professional lives or professional development. Andrea, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
I think you've definitely grown since Ubuntu Hub started. The fact that the Leadership Lounge was introduced later on, it started off really slow, but all of a sudden you had more and more leaders, school leaders across the continent interested. And it is growing. It is free as well. I mean, you did mention before, sometimes finances are a challenge, and that has been one of the incentives for more teachers and more school leaders to join the Ubuntu Hub as well.
Thank you both. Seera, we had a question for you. You shared some insights into how you're supporting your teachers to meet the socio-emotional needs of learners. And there was a question a bit about trauma-informed teaching. And if you could share some more details about how that works in your school.
Thank you very much, Kate. I mean, the nature of the circumstance really, just pushes us to just involve trauma sessions into our curriculum and the way we run our school because of the children's backgrounds and the different experiences. So we usually include these, they're usually safe spaces, and we have allocated time for them on our timetable. We do the counseling every day throughout the week, but we can have trauma sessions maybe twice a month, and we work in collaboration with the MLSADA organization to support the children through the process, plus the teachers as well through the process. And for us it has been very helpful because most of the cases of indiscipline, cases of disrespect, when we research further, have a foundation or a background from the children's experiences, past experiences. And when we deal with that, then we find that the children actually change in the way they behave, but also their learning greatly improves because we've dealt with the stumbling block. Yes.
Thank you, Seera. And there's also been a lot of commentary and comments about how these experiences and challenges on the continent aren't just specific to the continent, that actually every region that you look at around the globe, teachers and school leaders are facing similar challenges. So it's really about creating those peer learning and community networking spaces like we're doing today. So thank you all, and Seera for sharing with the group your practices. Simon, you're doing a great job of answering your questions directly in the chat. So, but I do have one. There was one, you may have answered it, I hope not already, about resistance from school leaders to be part of the various trainings. Is that a something that you come across, or if so, how do you kind of deal with that situation?
Yeah, thanks, Kate. That's not something we've experienced in our work in Ghana. But they're just 2-day trainings in that literacy program. And I think generally school leaders are glad to understand what's going on and wanting to improve outcomes in the foundation phase. I think I didn't want to pack too much into the presentation, but there are also some components around supporting school leaders with managing in-school professional learning communities and using instructional coaching. And those things, I think, running a weekly professional learning community can be made really quite routine, but providing instructional coaching to teachers is something that I think requires a lot of motivation. And so I think that's a point where you get a lot of variability in the extent to which teachers, school leaders engage. But it's quite nice going to a training and meeting other school leaders and teachers, and so haven't had pushback thus far.
Well, that's good. It sounds like a very positive environment. May it continue. And Chinedum, we've got one question. This might be our final question because we have to wrap up in 3 minutes. So there was a question on how do you work to make sure that the trainings provided are relevant to the context of Nigeria? So moving away from colonial notions of education and leadership.
Okay, so that's a very good question. The curriculum that we use for the school leadership development program was carefully curated. And it wasn't something that was picked up or borrowed or transferred from somewhere else. It was carefully curated with school leaders as being part of the curating that curriculum. And we review it and see that it is relevant to what we're doing. It's not foreign. It's also something that meets the needs of school leaders within these underserved communities. And for each training session, we have twice in a month, virtually, so that they don't need to leave where they are. The school leaders come up with action points, what they took from that, and they would implement. So it's not just have a training and just go home and say, we've had a training. They are supposed to make use of them, and the coaches work with them and ensure that they are able to, use what they have learned. And that's also another way for us to see if what they are getting is relevant to what they are doing. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all our speakers for giving us your time today and really sharing and sharing with the community. And we've learned a lot. As I said, we'll be asking everyone to send us through the links to the resources and the studies and the apps and the platforms that have been presented over the past hour. So we hope that you all kind of make use of them, have another look and keep in contact, because we've had great participation. Throughout. So thank you all. Okay, well, we've got to jump now to our next session. So thank you again to our speakers and to you, our audience, for your participation and asking questions and sharing also your experiences in the chat. There's been a lot of experience sharing, so that's been great to see. If you are curious about similar practices and ideas in other regions, our next session will focus on South Asia and Southeast Asia, so another part of the world. And please have a look in the chat for more details to join that session. And thank you to everybody for joining us today, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.